Welcome, everyone. Being 4 o'clock, I'd like to call this meeting of the Executive Committee to order. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We recognize that Prince Albert is located within Treaty 6 territory and is the homeland of the Dakota and Métis. We extend our respect to all Indigenous people for their valuable past and present contributions and recognize and respect the cultural diversity within the City of Prince Albert. With that, before we move to the approval of the agenda, I would like to recommend that we remove item 6.3 from the consent portion of the agenda until Councillor Ogrodnik can attend the meeting and speak to it. So with that, do I have someone who's willing to move the agenda with that change? Oops, sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Miller.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. With that, ready to vote? The vote is now open. I'm missing one vote. Thank you very much. Carried. Whoops, I think I just pressed the wrong button. Okay, thank you. Okay, adoption of the minutes. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Declaration of conflict of interest. I missed. Councillor Miller.
Thank you. I do have a conflict of interest on 7.5. I do sit on the Alcohol Strategy Committee.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lennox Zapp.
I declare conflict on 7.3, tax exemption agreement for daycare properties. I am a member of the board of Prince Albert Cooperative Childcare.
Thank you very much. Any others? Thank you. A reminder that you're to complete the paperwork and turn it into the clerk at the end of the meeting. Thank you. Now, item number 4, adoption of the minutes. Mayor.
Also move.
Thank you. The vote is now open. Still missing one? It passes. Next item. Here we go. Next item on the agenda is delegations. There are no delegations. On to number 6, the consent agenda. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would like to remove 6.4 and 6.5. A couple questions on those items, please.
Councillor Lennox Zapp.
6.1.
Would anybody be willing to move the rest? Councillor Head.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move the rest, yes.
Thank you very much. With that, the rest of the consent is open. Still missing a couple of votes. One left. No. Thank you. And it carries. Item 6.1. Request to review, reverse the penalty charge on a tax statement. Sorry, Councillor Lennox Zapp. Councillor Lennox Up.
Thank you. I move that the city waive tax penalty of $275.13, that the city waive the tax penalty of $275.13. I do have a tax roll number. I guess we can say regarding tax roll 242-00-3560.
Thank you. Does that capture?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Open for discussion. Mayor.
Well, I won't support it strictly. It should go to financial services. We have a policy. We got away from these one-offs. And that's why I can't support it. It's a one-off. We didn't do the last two. Why would we do this one? Why would we do the future? That's why we drafted a policy. So I don't know what this person is. I assume we're not in a conflict of interest when we're putting it forward, because otherwise it would go, I don't know why it wouldn't go to financial services. We have a policy and that's where it should go. So I won't be supporting this motion. And maybe she has information that we don't have that's on the report. So maybe I'll ask the mover, why are we going to break policy? Do you know something about this file that we don't know?
Thank you. Councillor Lennox Up.
Thank you. No, I don't have any other information other than what we have in our package here, that it seems to be a small amount, but perhaps a smarter way of going about this would be, we do have the Mayor's Compassionate Fund, and because it's a small amount, I wonder if maybe I should be moving that this $275 be referred to the Mayor's Compassionate Fund, and then we can hear, and for council to hear back if that's been approved in there, in that manner. I don't know if
Just
that's
for clarification, prior to going to financial services or after financial services?
I think prior to, because my, well, let's see, my understanding, yeah, is that through the, I think prior to, but maybe I could hear, maybe the mayor has any comment if that's something available to us, in his opinion.
Thank you very much. Mayor.
Councillor Stepp just broke my foot. If it gets referred to financial services, they talk to me automatically about the fund, because it depends what their policy is. They have to first find out to make sure that she doesn't owe us any money in different 4 or 5 categories. That's why it's got to go to financial services first.
Thank you, Mayor.
If I
Councillor
may,
Lennox Up.
I think that would be fine then, that we refer to financial services and then have this return back to report to council. And report back to council. And that way we would know what occurred and if any steps are necessary or not.
Okay,
don't-
any other discussion on the motion on the floor? Councillor Edwards.
Thank you. You want to refer back to city council meeting or executive meeting? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other discussion? We'll give the clerk a moment so that we can move to a vote. Sorry. Ready to vote? The vote is now open. And it carries. Okay, next item. 6.4, the October 2023 accounts payable payments, and Councillor Head.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just have a couple questions on a few of these expenditures. So just flagging line number 27, line number 30, line 39, and last one, 52.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any others?
Just a point.
Mayor.
We were saying who they are made out to. So I don't know if we've changed that.
Can you give more information in
Just,
with
uh,
each
You know,
line?
like 27 is a B and B, or 30 is this company, 40 is this company. That's
Well-
all we used to do.
He's just asking that when you say the line, can you also say the?
Okay, yes.
Who it's made out to, so then we
Yeah.
don't have to look for
20
ourselves.
and
Absolutely. So
Thank
the
you.
line 27 is NCSWM Corporation. Line number 30 is Full Line Electric and General Contracting. Line number 39 is Erickson Contracting and Management Limited. And then line number 52 is Procedo LLP.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And would you like then to
I'll
move?
move the rest, yes.
Thank you. The vote is now open. Thank you. It carries. Now, item number 6.5, November 2023 accounts payable, and Councillor Head.
Thank you again, Deputy Mayor. A couple, same thing, couple items here. Line number 14 is Erickson Contracting and Management Limited. Line 17 is Toter LLC Waste Equipment. And then two others is 106, Metalman Art and Design, and 110 is Next Gen Mechanical Inc.
Thank you.
And I'll move the rest if there's no others.
Thank you very much. And the vote is now open. And the vote carries. Thank you. Now on to reports of administration and committees. The first item is 7.1, naming rights and sponsorship policy. With that, we will move to the Director of Community Services, Jody Belay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members
Thank
of
you.
council for the opportunity. The naming rights and sponsorship policy was originally created in 2015, so it has been some time since a review was completed of this particular policy. For a couple different reasons. One was we did have a council resolution with respect to the inclusion of language around diversity, enabling diversity and gender equity considerations for future naming initiatives. That particular language we were able to include in section 701 subsection C of the policy. And then we also were able to work with DCG Consulting, the company that's leading the fundraising campaign for the new facility. There were some areas as we started that fundraising campaign that did require some updating. We were able to include those in section 401, subsection B, 402, subsection H, section 702B, and 802C. The one with respect to 802C, previous, we only had alcohol and tobacco listed as ineligible sponsorship considerations. We have included the promotion of marijuana, edibles, and vaping. Again, since 2015, there has been changes with respect to what is considered legal in Canada. However, as far as what is considered appropriate for sponsorship and naming rights in our facilities, we felt that that needed to be included under the section that was ineligible. Also in section 702B, the one I referenced there, this calls for a social responsibility review for naming rights considerations. That's quite a general term that we feel in conjunction with DCG was very necessary. I'll just quickly reference in the report, this includes but isn't limited to pending lawsuits. So this would be, if we're considering a naming rights proposal for a certain individual, we would take into consideration pending lawsuits, public statements with respect to the city, associates, and associated businesses. And then naming must be seen to bring value and not undue controversy to the city, regardless if the potential naming of an individual or corporation has not been convicted of a felony. There may be other issues affecting the suitability for naming. So previously, we only referenced if an individual is convicted of a felony. This broadens that consideration to a larger social responsibility review. So those are the areas highlighted and suggested for changes in the policy. Appreciate the input that we were able to receive as well from DCG.
Thank you. Open for discussion. The mayor.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Lennox Epp.
I'm supporting this motion in terms of just the topic of diversity and gender diversity for naming places like parks and streets, et cetera. The new language reads that consideration will be given to enable diversity and gender equity where applicable. So it's not the strongest of language. It's a step up from having no language. This is an improvement, and I do support it. It doesn't mean we can't reach higher into the future to make further improvements. I'll note that the City of Saskatoon, in their recent policy change, they had a list similar to what we have, a priority list of naming when streets come available. And in their new policy, they actually changed the list to reflect diversity in their city and reflect gender diversity. That we're not doing this with this policy. We're not changing that priority list, but we are at least including consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Solomon.
Thank you. Just a question in regards to, well, first of all, Jody, thank you for your work on this, Director. Just a question more around the word felony, actually. I believe that's an American term that's not part of our current justice system in Canada. So I have the solicitors here, and I just, I don't believe it's a correct term in our policy.
Is that a question directed to the city solicitor, and we'll find the correct language? Oh, sorry, Councillor Solomon, go ahead.
Sorry, just to review that term and make it appropriate for Canadian context.
So certainly, thank you, Councillor Solomon. I can make that adjustment. The next step for this would be consideration at the January 22nd City Council meeting. So I think making that change to that term would be appropriate. Appreciate you bringing that forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, any other discussion? Not seeing any. We will open up for, motion is on the floor. We'll open it up for a vote. The vote is now open. And the vote carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda. 7.2, donation policy and procedure. What is the wish of, oh, thank you. With the presentation, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today regarding the update to our donation policy and procedure. So similar to the naming rights and sponsorship policy, the donation policy was reviewed considering that we have an aquatic and arena center project that will be engaging in fundraising and donations. The recommendations you see before you were developed in collaboration, again, with DCG Consulting, who are engaged in the capital campaign relating to the aquatics and arena project. Administration also reviewed and recommended changes to ensure any modifications would still continue to support the city's overall goals and approach. The main changes that you will note are just primarily relate to wording. So the previous policy spoke to tax deductibility. However, tax deductibility is something that the donor themselves is to determine when they file their tax return, and it's not something that the city would be commenting on. Other changes were made to make the policy stronger. So this includes wording around the definition of gifts in kind, as well as additional wording and requirements to ensure the city is not considered to be acting as a conduit for other organizations. We also added a requirement to enter into an agreement with the city if someone is entering into a multi-year term for with their donation, just to ensure that we have a bit of assurance on collectability for those multi-years. So overall, the changes in the policy are aimed to protect and support the city, considering the capital fundraising campaign coming with the new aquatic and arena center. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Edwards.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Motion is on the floor. Are there any other questions for our manager? Seeing none, we'll open the item. Oh, did I do, oh, no, sorry. I've got to go back. Yeah, wrong item. Oh, sorry, it is the right one. Sorry. Gotcha. There we are. It's now open. And it passes. Thank you very much. Next item is 7.3, tax exemption agreement for daycare properties, with a verbal presentation from Brianne Fulmer, the Senior Accounting Manager. Go ahead.
Thank you once again. Today, for this item here, I'm speaking regarding 5 properties who operate daycares within the city, and they are seeking tax exemption agreements. So all of these organizations and buildings have been granted tax applications in the past, and these expired on January 31st, 2023. Each of the organizations has demonstrated that they meet the criteria under Policy 51. They are not-for-profit organizations and use their building to benefit the community. The report details what each organization does, but to summarize, these are organizations that provide support to mothers and children. They focus on supporting early childhood education needs while following provincial daycare standards and regulations. The total taxation amount on all of these properties combined amounts to just under $20,000. $16,000 of that relates to municipal taxes. All of these properties have had exemptions in place for a number of years in the past, so that means that their tax dollars have already been adjusted in past tax tools. Continuing to grant the exemption would not create an increase in taxation compared to previous years. Overall, each of these organizations meets the criteria under the policy. They have had existing agreements set in the past, and therefore they are being recommended to be granted another 5-year exemption.
Thank you. Councillor Cody.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? I do have a question. And perhaps it's not more of a suggestion or a wondering. I see that when we do the tax exemption for different groups, I feel that that is a way of the residents or the taxpayers are supporting those groups. And quite often there needs to be, in many things that the city supports, there's a document or a sign that says, and sponsored by, it's not really sponsored by, but some kind of recognition that the city is supporting these groups. So I guess I'm just wondering if that is possible, or if we could add that in some way, shape, or form, that maybe at the front door, you know, and sponsor, in recognition of the city, we're supported by the city of Prince Albert.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. I think that's a great idea. It's not something that we do currently, but we can look into that and we can discuss with the organizations as well. I think it's a great opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Councillor Head.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a couple questions, I guess. These properties that were indicated here in our report were given a 5-year abatement already, or a tax exempt already, so it's just ongoing to
Correct.
5 years. Any other applications? Because I know we got, you know, when you see a rising increase on daycares because of some of the grants the federal government is providing, do we see, why only 5? I mean, I know there's more in our city. Are they not applying? Are they not aware of this benefit?
Thank you for the question. So these 5, they have had agreements for a number of years, and we reach out to them whenever an agreement is expiring, explaining the process. The tax relief, so Policy 51, isn't something that we necessarily advertise because it is something that reduces our tax dollars. So that likely is why that we only have the 5 that are applying. But of course, if other organizations that meet the criteria are interested in applying, they can continue to apply, and we'll assess it as they come in.
Yeah, thank you, Brianna. That was the question I was asked by a resident, so I appreciate the response. I am supporting this motion. I just thought I'd ask that question. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Just a quick
Go ahead, Mayor.
follow-up to his inquiry. I did have a couple calls, but the couple calls I got, they were for-profit daycares. That's the big difference. We have lots out there that are for-profit, but we also have a lot out there that are not registered. So that's why they don't qualify.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll work on the vote. The vote is now open. Thank you very much, Councillor Head. I'm missing a few votes. I'm still missing a vote. With that, oh, thank you very much. Took me a second. And the vote carries. The next item on the agenda, 7.4, request for tax relief, Prince Albert Share a Meal Food Bank and the Prince Albert Habitat for Humanity. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I agree with this motion, and I will I'll move this motion.
Thank you. I'm sorry. There is a presentation.
Okay.
I need to read down the line just a little bit further. I'm very sorry. Verbal presentation by Brianne Fulmer. Go ahead.
Thank you. So this.
Excuse me? Let's continue on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So this presentation is going to be similar to that last one. I'll keep it brief. So this is regarding the tax exemption for Habitat for Humanity and Prince Albert Share a Meal. Both of these organizations have also had these 5-year exemption agreements in the past. So the report in front of you today is recommending to extend those agreements for another 5 years. Both organizations have demonstrated that they meet the criteria under Policy 51. They are not-for-profit organizations and use their building to benefit the community. Habitat for Humanity's building is their Restore location, which sells new and used home and building supplies, the profits from which they use to fund Habitat for Humanity's building of future homes. Share a Meal provides food security and education initiatives. They provide a 3-day supply of emergency food assistance once a month, along with providing fresh produce and bread on a daily basis to those in need. The tax exemption for Habitat for Humanity amounts to just under $40,000, including all taxes, and Share a Meal is just over $7,000. As these exemptions have been in place for a number of years, they have already been factored into previous year tax tools. So this means that these exemptions have already been factored into past budgets and past tax tools. Continuing to grant the exemptions does not create an increase compared to those previous years. So overall, both of the organizations meet the criteria of the policy, and administration is recommending to approve another 5-year term.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Brianne Fulmer? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thanks.
The vote is now open. There wasn't anyone exempt. Thank you very much, and it's carried. The next item on the agenda is 7.5, alcohol sales, stakeholder consultation. We're going to have a verbal presentation and a PowerPoint from Anna Dinsdale, our Community Safety and Wellbeing Coordinator. But first, I'll turn Mike over to the Director of Planning and Development Services. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, members of Executive Committee, for the opportunity. I wanted to take a quick opportunity to actually introduce to you a new employee with the City of Prince Albert, although she's been with us since October. Anna Dinsdale has never been formally introduced to you. You recall from Public Safety Canada, we received a grant of over $1 million from the Building Safer Communities Fund, and a big part of our application was to hire a community safety and well-being coordinator. So I'm very pleased to introduce Anna to you. She's a tremendous asset to the city. We've got a number of projects on the go as we speak. This one, of course, includes a very robust public consultation piece in regards to alcohol sales. And we're looking forward to share that with you, along with some other projects that we've got coming up. So I'll pass the mic over to Anna, and she'll tell you some of the consultation work that she did. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Between October and December 2023, administration conducted a stakeholder consultation on the hours of sale for alcohol that is consumed off-premise, known as off-sale purchases. This presentation, alongside the reports that you have attached to the agenda, summarise the findings of the consultation, including a summary of research and data and learning from L'Orange. There is significant international, national and provincial research that supports limiting hours of sale for alcohol to reduce alcohol harms in communities. The World Health Organization specifically recommends this intervention as a mechanism to reduce alcohol harms in communities, especially in neighbourhoods that experience greater harms. The Canadian Institute for Health Information note that just a 2-hour increase in hours of sale was associated with relative increases in traffic injuries and emergency department admissions. And the University of Victoria, which is home to the Canadian Institute of Canadian Institute of Substance Use Research, note that changes to late night retail hours are particularly associated with increased levels of heavy drinking and acute harms. However, it's not just community or social harms that are impacted by alcohol, but there's also economic considerations. The Canadian Substance Use Cost and Harms Report, which was published in 2023, assessed the costs of a range of substances, including alcohol, tobacco, cannabis, opiate stimulants, and cocaine. Nationally, alcohol continues to be the most costly substance, which takes into account revenue and costs across healthcare, lost productivity, criminal justice, and other costs such as fire damage and vandalism. In Saskatchewan, the revenue for fiscal year 2020 to 2021 was $454 million, whilst the harms and costs amounted to $766 million. This equates to a cost to the province of 71 cents per drink sold. For a more local context, I've included data from the Canadian Institute of Health Information for hospitalizations entirely caused by alcohol. For clarity, this is hospitalizations due to, for example, alcohol withdrawals or liver cirrhosis where alcohol has been consumed. It doesn't take into account hospitalizations where alcohol might be a factor, for instance, injuries and assaults. You can see that in 2021 to 2022, per 100,000, Canada had 277 admissions. Saskatchewan exceeded that 415, and the Prince Albert Parkland Health Region almost doubled that at 540. L'Orange passed bylaw 59918 in December 2018 as part of a community alcohol management strategy. This allowed alcohol retailers to open from 11 to 11, Monday to Saturday, and 1 to 8, Sundays and statutory holidays. An ethics-approved study compared alcohol-related visits to the L'Orange ER before and after the bylaw was introduced. It found decreases across males, females, but notably between 16 to 24-year-olds, there was a 9% decrease, and unintended injuries associated with alcohol saw a 13% decrease. A comparison of RCMP calls for service where alcohol is a factor, which compares L'Orange with Northern Saskatchewan, noted only a modest between 2017 and 2021, noted just a moderate decrease in calls for service. However, when you look at the trend for Northern Saskatchewan during the same time period, there was a definite increase. It's also worth noting that during this period, there was a pandemic, which not only is the confounder, but we know that during the pandemic, alcohol and substance use levels increased. We can't, with this data, we can't draw causal kind of conclusions. However, what we can do is surmise that there probably is a buffer that the bylaw provided L'Orange during this time. Moving on to the stakeholder consultation, this included a range of businesses, local interest groups, alcohol retailers, and subject matter experts. Your report lists the stakeholders, whether they responded, and more detailed feedback than I'm going to speak about here. So the feedback that we did get, for those that were in favour, there was feedback from businesses that felt that business interests are not mutually exclusive from community interests, and that businesses are experiencing harms from alcohol which are visible and impact on their revenue. There was almost unanimous support from human service providers, who particularly note the impact on emergency services and other services of acute harms from alcohol, as well as the association with issues such as interpersonal violence and assault. There was also recognition that this is not a panacea and will not fix all of Prince Albert's social problems, but rather it is one intervention that offers benefits alongside other action. Those voicing concerns about the bylaw were predominantly small or independent alcohol retailers who feel that a bylaw will disproportionately impact on their businesses. They fed back that off-sale hours comprise up to 40% of their revenue, that they cannot bulk purchase alcohol and pass on savings to customers like large retailers, that their business model relies on impulse purchasing as opposed to planned purchasing of alcohol, that it will restrict some business owners' ability to make investments elsewhere across the city and on business tax opportunities for the municipality. One retailer noted that there was a risk that they would have to make redundancies if the bylaw was passed, and other retailers simply felt that the bylaw wouldn't make a difference. There were some questions raised about the potential for unintended social consequences. Again, these are detailed in the report, but they include the potential for people to drive intoxicated to purchase alcohol outside of the city limits, the risk that emergency services will see an increase in the number of people experiencing alcohol withdrawals, and the increased risk that people consume non-beverage alcohol such as hand sanitizer. However, when specialist services were consulted, the feedback was that they felt that this was not considered to be very likely, that the benefits to individuals of a bylaw will outweigh the increased risks described above, and that the risks can be managed through a collaborative multi-sector review table that will monitor for early signs of these risks in order to respond. Therefore, based on the evidence and the stakeholder consultation, the recommendations are that administration draft a bylaw for alcohol stores to open at 10 and close at 11 daily, and that administration lead a collaborative approach to bylaw implementation, monitoring and measuring impact. This will allow council to revisit the decision and the effectiveness of the bylaw if it is passed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the presenter? Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thanks for the report. Out of city limits, what are the hours within 30 kilometers for businesses? Do we know what the hours are? I know you said some in here, but
I think I provided a list of them in the report, and apologies. Thank you for the question, Councillor.
no problem.
And I think I did list them. I can't tell you off the top of my head accurately, but the details are in the report. They are currently outside of our hours, and they would, I think they would be within the hours of this recommendation. Apologies that I can't give you that answer
Yeah,
off the top of my head.
I know it was in here somewhere, but another thing is, a couple of places in the report you talk about it would affect their ability to compete with large alcohol retailers. What does that mean?
So there are a number of examples that they gave. So, for instance, one is that larger retailers can purchase alcohol in bulk and then pass on the savings, discounted savings to people that are purchasing alcohol. So therefore, they can buy more alcohol for cheaper, whereas small retailers can't do that. So that's one of the pieces that was fed back. The other thing that was... Sorry?
Just one moment, please. Just
Yeah, I
let
think
her
the
finish and
other
I'll
thing
turn
that
on
is
your mic.
an exacerbating factor is that therefore the out of hours is what their competitive edge is. So in order to really compete, what they're saying is that they have to be able to deliver services out of hours. And that's their business model is based on impulse purchasing, whereas a large retailer that might sell products alongside alcohol rely on people planning to purchase alcohol in advance.
So the large retailers, we're talking in terms of, used to be called liquor stores, the main liquor stores. Now we're talking liquor vendors that offer I don't know what the terminology should be anymore, it's changed. So bars that offer off-sale. So they're the ones that are saying, competing against the larger liquor stores like others that are established in the city?
Yeah, I think there's a large liquor store that sells kind of snacks and other products alongside alcohol, and the location of those stores mean that when the feeling from the smaller retailers is that people choose to go to that store when they're also buying their groceries, and that they plan to purchase their alcohol in advance. Whereas perhaps the smaller retailers, particularly if they've got drive-throughs, they rely on impulse and last-minute purchases. And so it's a different business model, and they feel that that is what currently gives them their competitive edge. I hope that's clearer. But
So by reducing the hours here, and I think I support it, but is the goal to reduce public intoxication? Is that one of the goals?
there are a number of benefits that could be realised, and one of the reasons that I'm suggesting a robust kind of monitoring and implementation is so that we can really gauge the impact and understand what the benefits are. But the research suggests that we will see benefits across from traffic safety, crimes including potentially violent crimes,
Yes.
intoxicated calls for services with emergency services, people attending the emergency department. So those are potentially that's the real benefits that we would hope to see as a community.
Yeah, and I like the idea of monitoring it over a specific period. I do think that the hours you've offered allow the smaller retailers an opportunity to be open longer still. I think by a couple of hours, by 2 hours anyway, and I think that's okay. The morning, what were the hours till open at 10 a.m. in comparison to 8? I think is with some vendors. I think that's a great idea. I don't know why people can't wait till 10 a.m. to buy alcohol. But if one of our main goals is to reduce public intoxication and the violence or the crime that comes with public intoxication, I'm all for this because it's got out of hand in today's society, not just in Prince Albert. And so I'm fully supportive of reducing public intoxication because somehow society's just allowed it. It's okay to be loaded on the streets and harassing people that are trying to shop and things like that. And so if that's kind of the goal, I'm all for it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. Mayor?
Yeah, and I support this bylaw. It's not like we're saying you can't sell liquor. If we were closed, then I agree with all their arguments. But it's no different than grocery stores. I know the hours of my grocery stores. I don't go get groceries because I know on Sundays they close at 8. Normally they close at 10. I know all the hours. And I shop within those hours. And it just makes sense that you do that. It'd be totally different if we were saying no booze, you know? Then I could see them going out there. And gonna drive out when they have till 11 o'clock at night, you know, to get alcohol. No, I don't have an issue with that. One thing that's missing in this report, and it might have been neglectful on us, we had also suggested when you meet with them that we close 4 days a year. That we close Christmas Day, Easter Sunday, and I forget the other two. Was that discussed, or is that something that we'll have to go back to them on? Because, for example, there was only one open on Christmas Day. So that tells me the other 9 businessmen know there was no business. And this other guy doesn't want to give our community a break. They don't want to give our police a break or our emergency service a break and serve alcohol, you know? And all of a sudden, alcohol seems to be a given right, you know, and that's not a fact. And so I'm glad to see it. I'm very sad that I live in a province that you can buy alcohol, you only can't buy alcohol from 5 till 8 in the morning, 5 hours. That's pretty sad when you think of it. And you look at every record in Canada, we're the worst province for impaired drivers, we're the worst province for death, we consume the most alcohol in the country. Like, God, I hope our province is proud of all these facts because we hold every record. I don't want any of those records. government of Saskatchewan can have those records. I want to have a good community where people can be raised and not worried about alcohol. Okay, thank you for that report, and I'll follow up with a further motion to look at those 4 days.
Thank you,
Or
Mayor.
did you talk?
Well,
Sorry.
thank you, Mayor.
Oh, and I'll move the recommendation.
I would, the reason I kind of incorporated the implementation and the monitoring is because I'm hoping that what we'll be able to do is collaborate with our partners to get data that will then help to inform those next step discussions, and whether or not there are benefits to be realised in having shorter hours on a Sunday, for instance, or stat holidays, etc., etc. So it wasn't part of the scope of the immediate consultation, but I think that we may have enough data that can inform whether or not there are cost savings to be realised.
Okay, because I looked at it this way, when all the grocery stores closed on Christmas Day, everyone else can. That's how I look at it. And the greedy one, he'll be the one that fights this, and I'll enjoy looking for that fight. Thank you.
So you have moved the recommendation as it is? Thank you. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And thank you, Anna, for the report, and the research that you did on it. That was one of the pieces that I needed to see, was the nexus from alcohol sales and some of the issues we're seeing socially within our community. And so I think looking at this report, it touches on that around what it's costing us as a province per drink. But more specifically, looking at L'Orange and the numbers you provided there are very helpful for me to make this decision moving forward, because it does show and highlight that there is some benefits to this reduction of hours. There is some cost savings when it comes to our emergency services, and other things like police would be a domino effect as well, I would think. So, I am under no presumption that this is going to fix our problem in our city. I realize that, and I think so does our residents. The ones I have talked to today and this last weekend are in favor of this overwhelmingly. It feels like we need to do something, and so this is I feel is a good step for this council to look at some of these sales and to look at these numbers, and of course to monitor how we moving forward in the next year and how this is going to benefit our community. But to Councillor Edwards' comments, these are things that we would want to see. Public intoxications reduced, and this report shows, the hours of operation versus hours of intoxications we're going to see possibly will be affected. I'm hoping we're going to see the reduction of that. Reduction of violent crimes are huge in our city, and I think everybody wants to see some of those come to an end. And we can all put a pin that alcohol typically is in relation to all these crimes we're seeing in our community. So to me, this is a good step for us to move in this direction. I will be supporting this as well. I do have a couple questions about your report, though. There's just a couple comments that are concerning to me. I read under your report, detailed concerns from small private alcohol retailers. There's one bullet there, and I want to say that's about the 7th bullet down. A reduction in hours will result in reduction in staffing, including the need for approximately $200,000 on security per year at one store. What do they mean by that? Can you elaborate a little bit on that one?
Yeah, that was one retailer that said they currently spend $200,000 a year on security, and that if the bylaw was to be passed, they would no longer be spending those dollars on security. And they felt that that was something the city should be aware of, because that was people that aren't going to be employed, money that aren't going to be spent, isn't going to be spent. Apologies, yeah. Thank you, Councillor, for the question.
And then the next bullet right next to it, operators work hard to retain staff and ensure diligent operation at stores, including checking IDs. The bullet says the city should do more to ensure all retailers, are operating as they should. Can you elaborate on that one?
Yes, thanks for the question, Councillor. Yes, they feel that it's not fair for some retailers to be penalised, what they would perceive to be penalised through this bylaw, when they feel that amongst retailers there are some that are much more perhaps ethical than others and conduct themselves more in a more ethical way, I guess. And so they feel that steps, instead of passing a bylaw to restrict alcohol sale, that there's an opportunity for the city to look at how they monitor retailers more effectively.
Now, okay, thanks for that response. Now that kind of plays into the next question. How are we going to monitor this bylaw change?
Thank you for the question. So actually, I was I've been having some conversations with SLGA just last month. Their inspectorate team are really keen to engage with communities and have communicated that. I think there's a really great opportunity for us, if this bylaw is passed, to be able to connect with SLGA and speak to them about how they can support that, and what that might look like in practice for our community. So it's, I don't have the exact answer for you right now, but what I can say is that I've started to have those conversations. I was actually speaking to a stakeholder just the other day who was speaking about the need for us to really think about how we support communities who are raising concerns about alcohol bootlegging for communities that are dry, and what opportunities there might be for us to work with our retailers to try and support those communities. So there are several conversations that are ongoing, and I don't have the exact answer for you, but certainly SLGA have indicated they'd be keen to come and work with us.
Well, that was some of the concerns raised by residents. Would this kind of create some other criminal activities as well? And, you know, you mentioned bootlegging and other, you know, I guess, you know, that kind of avenue. I worry that it's going to do that. And I guess, would we receive some reporting on this within 3 months, quarterly possibly, versus waiting for a whole year to see what this impacts has had? Will we get updates regularly?
Yes. I think quarterly is reasonable. We've got we're having conversations with our partners currently, which around data that we can collect. Okay. There are some conversations in La Ronge actually around research opportunities that we might be able to partner with them on. So I don't think it's unrealistic to expect that we could provide you with an update quarterly.
Okay. No, it'd be helpful to get this information, you know, within months of this change, to see how it is affecting us, and so we can see some positive immediate responses to this change. Last question, I guess, because you do compare us, or at least compare some of the data research with La Ronge and their hours. Is there any other provinces or any other cities in the province that have reduction of sales like this that we can draw off as well?
Thank you for the question. No, not that I'm aware. Not in this province.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Head. Mayor Dion.
One thing I should have flagged this to you when you went out. When they fire back talk about competition and the big guy against the little guy, you said yes. So you want to thank City Council for helping you? Those little guys have to remember, we only have 10 liquor licenses in this city. I'm going to ask for a report later on how many liquor licenses are in other cities, and you'll be surprised how many have more liquor than we do that have a population of 10,000 people. And I just got a report on the cannabis, and that's how I got the idea, and I'm going to ask on alcohol, because we only allow 10 licenses. So those people that have those licenses have a value. And that was obvious when you looked when the government sold the 2 licenses that were available here. They went for $1 million, $3 million, $4 million, because there's only 10. You know, it's not an open market. So even though they say to you, we're going to affect you, hey, we realize that, but we give you the biggest protection. You could have 10 more stores competing against you. You can't have a store within 1,000 feet. You go to any other city, you don't get that privilege. So I think all that we've done has been more than fair and reasonable to the retailer.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other questions? I would just like to ask the presenter, we used an acronym, SLGA. Can we expand just so that people who might not know?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's Saskatchewan Liquor Gaming Authority, and as you may be aware, Saskatchewan transitioned to be fully privatised retail, of course, just February, I think it was it March, 2023. So, but they still collect data around shipped litres of alcohol, for instance, that we can access as if we partner with SLGA. They can support with conversations around inspections. They can even support any community initiative, funding for community initiatives that are targeted on reducing alcohol harms.
And just a further point, are they also responsible for the inspectors to make sure that the retailers, the businesses, are following the legislative laws?
Thank you, and yes, they are.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? With that, we'll open it up. is now open. Thank you very much. And thank you, it's carried. The next item on the agenda, once I fix this, next item on the agenda is 7.6, Long Service and Retirement Recognition Policy, and a verbal presentation from Kylie Baer, the Director of Corporate Services. Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Tonight this report is about our long service recognition policy. We currently have a program that recognizes 15, 20, 25 years and retirees. And there's a banquet held every year to host and recognize long service of city employees. So the most recent amendment to this policy was in 2012, but it's been around, I think, at least going back to the 70s, maybe even longer. So it's a long-standing policy for the city of Prince Albert. Tonight, we're asking for a couple of amendments to the program. One is to expand the number of recognition years and expand the variety of the awards options. So following the banquet last year, we just received some feedback that there's people who've worked quite a number years beyond 25 years. It'd be nice to recognize them, and then back it up, recognize people at the 10-year mark. And then we also heard that the award options that we provide historically, which is a jacket at 15 years, a watch at 20 years, and a ring at 25 years, are just less and less popular with employees. Maybe they were looking for maybe some more practical options. So we had received that feedback at the last meeting, or after the last banquet. And then when we were reviewing the program, the cost of gold has been rising steadily over the last number of years, and particularly this year, it's up to $765 for a men's ring. So given the rising cost of gold and the way that was driving up the cost of the program and the feedback that we had recently got, we wanted to just look at the program. So what we've done is we're proposing to, like I said, expand the variety of options. So you're not given just a single option. You can choose from a variety of options, some less or expensive to a maximum. And there's a little brochure in there that you can kind of see what we're kind of proposing. The program that we're able to offer now comes at what would be a lesser cost, even though it's a more expanded program. So under the traditional program, if we just stuck with the four recognition years, it would be an $18,625 program. The new one that we're proposing is $14,645. So we'd be removing the rings as an option, but I think that by adding in variety and more recognition years, it's actually an improved program. So yeah, that's the proposal and what we're asking for you to consider tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions for the director? Councillor Head.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Director, for the report. So this is improving the plan, I guess. Improving this benefit is what I'm looking at the numbers. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think it is. I think, especially given the feedback, I think it's nice to have variety, and we heard people want some more practical options. I mean, a ring may still appeal to some people, but it is driving up the cost of the program, and we're not necessarily, it's not necessarily a benefit. So we are being able to recognize more people and give them better options in terms of what they get to take home.
I do think 10 years out with any employer is, a long time, and yeah, it's a nice gesture from the employer to provide a gift at that year. Just looking at it, yeah, no, I do think there is some value in some of the jewelry that we provide, I guess, and yeah, I realize that there's a cost to that, but versus a cup, after 20 years or whatever, I worry about that. Is that enough for employees saying that you're valued? Is where I'm thinking. But hearing the feedback, which we don't see in this report, you're saying that the employees want this change.
Yeah, and to be clear, we didn't survey everybody citywide, but I think we did hear from employees, and it's not that you get a cup. A cup is an option, so maybe that's what you want. That's what suits you, but there is other options if you wanted to choose the other options, and there's still jewelry. The watch is still an option. It's just the ring being removed.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, and I just want to thank you for bringing this forward. It is very important. to recognize the employees and the longevity of their working, and it's a good appreciation. And it's not just an appreciation to the employee, it's an appreciation to the family. And I hear a story regularly from Donnie Peranto on how important these items are to the family, where they weren't given the award, and one past mayor, Don Cody, found that award and recognized that family member, Donnie Peranto's dad, for how long he worked. And 25 years since, or plus, longer, we still hear this story told. Just heard it the other day, and he told it in public. And that just shows that these are valuable to the employees and the family. So thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, and thank you, Kylie, for the report. I do like the changes to the program. It certainly gives more options, starting earlier and going longer, which in the long run would recognize more employees. We know our labor market certainly is tight, and employees that feel like they're valued are certainly going to stay with the organization longer. So if this helps even just a little bit in that regard, I think it's a positive thing. So the personal choice is also something that maybe we didn't have in the past, but whether it's a cup or a jacket or a duffel bag, whatever it may be, if it's their item, then they're invested in their choice in that. So I think it's a great improvement to the program. Thank you for your work on this.
Thank you, Councillor Solomon. Any others? Oh, sorry. Mayor Dion.
Well, they all praise the program, but I'll move it.
Thank you very much. The motion's on the floor, and we're ready to vote. And the vote is now open. Thank you. The vote carries. Next item on the agenda, 7.7, action items from City Council and Executive Committee, and a verbal presentation from our City Clerk. Go ahead.
So members of council, the City Clerk's office has completed the semi-annual review of the open action items up to December 11th, 2023. So the listings as attached to the report reflect the department's request to extend the due date or to close the item. Therefore, if there are any items that committee members wish to review or change, I would suggest to identify them using the reference number noted on the listing. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Councillor Lennox Zepp.
So I will move the motion, but there is one item that I wanted to ask about and potentially see if a change was available. It's page 249, item FS3. It's the lead services replacement program. So if I may maybe ask the question now. So question for the director. Oh, it's under financial services. Question for the director. So this is this was an item that we had, the meeting date was November of 2022. The deadline was December 31st, a couple of weeks ago, and requesting an extension. Director is requesting an extension to the deadline for further review. Proposed new date is June. Is it at all possible to consider an earlier date? I'm mindful that our term of office ends in November of this year, and you know, it would be nice if it was possible to process this through the process, you know, earlier than June if possible.
Thank you. Go ahead, Director.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Lennox Zepp, for the question. We still have a lot of research to do, but if you want to move it up, I guess we could try to get it done earlier for you. Do you want an actual date, or?
Well, I guess that's a question to, I guess I'd maybe ask that to other members of council.
And the question to her was, is it possible? What I heard her reply, if I may step in, is that anything is possible, but it will take a great deal of research, and that they put that date because they thought it was attainable.
Yes.
Does that summarize what you said?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
So maybe I would hear other discussion in the room before I want to suggest anything specific. But I don't want, we obviously we benefit from getting that review and that research and.
Okay,
and
thank you
all
very
that.
much. I will. Councillor Head,
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Maybe I'll suggest,
just one moment, please. Councillor Lennox up, thank you very much.
maybe I'll suggest prior to the construction season, because I understand, we're going to be replacing mains, and maybe this would be a timely piece if we were to get it, say, in March or April, prior to us ripping up roads in the city. So, because I think this would be very much appropriate if we're going to implement a bylaw to, obligate residents to change out their lead. So maybe before the construction season would be my suggestion.
Okay. Councillor Edwards.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I'm just reading it. It's talking about a deferred payment plan, which means it's a budget item, and it's going to cost the city to do the program, because we have to carry that cost. It's not just there, right? We have to pay for the services, so it's still a budget item, and I don't know how this could even be voted on until November, even if we had the report. So I think June is appropriate.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lennox up.
That's a good point, is that, I guess, in terms of cost, even if anyone applied for the program, I think Councillor Edwards is right, that then if they applied for a deferred payment, then that could occur. I'm going to,
I'm sorry to rush you, but can we?
yes, I apologize.
Thank
I
you.
just need to think about the comments that were made.
I realize.
So in terms of this item, I would leave it as is at this time, and I guess I'm hearing that am I hearing correctly that we're not expecting another extension in June to be brought to our attention?
That's the plan.
Go ahead, Director.
Okay, and then I had one last comment just on lead services topic, is just that, just when I read the review is occurring, that the City of Saskatoon does have this program currently active, and you can see it on their website, and so that is something that I'm sure will come out through the review. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, with that, any other discussion? We have a motion on the floor. I'm going to open it up for a vote. It's now open. I am missing one. Thank you very much, and it's carried. We have no unfinished business, and finally, we need a motion.
Motion to
Councillor Head.
adjourn, yes.
Thank you. All in favor? Oh, hold on, I have to do a vote. The vote is now open. And carried. We are adjourned. We will return at 20 minutes to 6, please.